Milwaukee's 12-volt detail sander, weighing in at less than 3 pounds. This is the new Milwaukee 2535. We got to use this at the Pipeline event just a few short weeks ago. It was the first time we got our hands on it, and then we finally got one here at the shop. And it is a great little sander. This is not for big jobs. This is to touch up those jobs or to do those fine jobs or smaller jobs. It's a great tool for that. You get multiple modes, multiple features, all packed into this little tool that is just 2.5 pounds, and it's powered by their 12-volt battery. Let's get closer, and then we'll come back and talk about pricing and warranty and what we think of it. We've got the brand new Milwaukee M12 FUEL 3-inch orbital detail sander. Now, this is the model number 2535-20, which means it comes as a bare tool with no battery or charger. I'm sure later on you'll probably be able to purchase this with a charger, but for right now, it just comes as a bare tool. But it's not necessarily bare because it comes with kind of everything you see here. So let's take a look at that. Number one, this is a 4-mode or 4-speed orbital. I believe the orbits are between 4,000 and 10,000 orbits. So speed 4 is going to give you those full 10,000 orbits. However, you also have a variable speed trigger. So you could set it at a max of 10,000, but still be able to start that slow if you want to, keep it slow with that trigger. Or if you wanted to utilize those speeds via the button there and actually set your max speed, then you can actually lock this trigger on by pulling the trigger up and pushing this button all the way in, which is kind of hard to do with one hand. You have to pull the trigger all the way up, push the button all the way in, and then that locks it. And to unlock it, pull the trigger, and that unlocks it. Now we get a 3-inch pad here with holes in it so we can actually hook up a dust extractor. Also, this dust bag comes with it. Now, speaking of dust extractors and dust ports, this adapter also comes with it. So if we hook this onto here, now we can hook up, and that locks on, by the way, and swivels. And then we're able to use either 1 1/4 on the inside, 1 7/8 on the outside, or 2.5-inch hoses for this. So should work on just about any of your shop vacs or dust extractors to be able to extract all your dust that you're sanding with. And the dust bag is supposed to work pretty well as well, which again, locks on with a clip. It's not just a force on and friction fit. It actually has a lock on it and it swivels around as well. Also, the bag here has a spring in it, which keeps things kind of expanded. Just a nicer design. But to remove all your dust, you're going to have to either take a vacuum and stick it in there and vacuum it out, because there is no zipper or pouch to open that up. Now, with the sander, you also get this clip here, which is pretty nifty in the fact that it has a belt clip, as well as you could use that keyhole for mounting it with the screw, and then the sander is going to clip onto there like that. So if you're detailing some cabinets or kind of doing some sort of punch list, you could have this hooked on your belt, pull this off, sand with it a little bit, put it back on there, use your screw gun or whatever else you're working with. So that is kind of nice to be able to have that little holder that comes along with it. Also, we get 2 different interface pads with this as well. And what these are for is, number one, this one here that really has no body to it. It's just basically another hook and loop interface pad. It's got basically your hook and loop on one side and your fuzzy on the other. And then your paper is actually going to stick to that. And this is going to stick to the actual pad. And that's going to save your pad. It's going to save the hooks that are actually on your rubber pad on the sander. And those aren't going to wear off even when you're wearing through that sandpaper, when you're trying to get more time out of it than you should. That little interface pad will save that pad and make sure you're not killing it. You can replace these for just a few bucks. And then we have a thicker, spongier interface pad or intermediate pad that a lot of times if you're doing any type of contours, maybe panels and doors, maybe some different type of chair rail, things like that. I could even see this in automotive use, maybe with some finer film paper, like getting into your 400s, 800s, things like that. But anyway, when you get into your detail work and in your finer sanding, these spongy pads, again, are going to be much more forgiving on those contours and doing that detail work. So that comes with the kit as well. And again, you can replace those for just a few bucks. Then you also get 3 different pieces of sandpaper in 3 different grits. So 9 pieces altogether. We have some 80 grit, we have some 120 grit, and we have 3 sheets of the 180 grit as well. I believe Milwaukee goes all the way up to 320. I believe they have the 180 and then a 220 or 240 and then a 320 as well. So you can go up in that finer paper with the Milwaukee sanding discs as well. You can also use any of your own sanding discs. I like these because they're breathable all the way through. They're not just holes. You can see we can actually see through these. And the same thing with your dust extraction. So you don't have to line up holes when you're putting these on. You can just put the disc on and go to work. I went ahead and threw a battery on here and threw the dust bag on it as well. And let's get a weight on it. Still sub 3 pounds, so 2 pounds, 8.5 ounces. So literally 2.5 pounds with battery and dust bag, pretty light. And then as far as length of the tool itself, right at 9.25 inches. If you include that dust bag, you're looking at about 12.5 inches. And height on this is going to be right at 4 3/4 inches tall. And then about 3 inches thick. You can see here the button on the top to change the different modes from 1. You're pretty low. And again, that 4,000 oscillations per minute. And speed 2, a little higher. 3, and then 4, your max 10,000 RPM. But as I was mentioning, if I want to start slow, I can with that variable speed trigger. And I can gradually bring that on. And if I want to lock it on, there we go. And our light here on the front, I can turn that on or I can turn that off. Really nice wide LEDs, actually 3 cob LEDs in there to give you a nice width of light. And again, I can turn that off if I want to. Now we've got a piece of wood up here and we're going to do some sanding. But first I want to get my interface pad on. You can see here we've got the fuzzy on one side or the loop on one side and the hook on the other. The hook's going to be your firmer feel. So obviously we're going to put our soft side to the hard side. We're going to line up those holes the best we can and put that on there. Always easier than it looks to get all of them lined up. There we go. And then I'll throw some 80 grit on here. And thankfully, since we have basically a net paper, we don't have to worry about lining anything up for that. Now let's start this and let's not go to 1, but let's go to 2. Now you can see here we've got a little rough edge right here where we run a router and kind of have a stepped edge right there. So a little tear out right there as well as a hard edge. We'll just kind of hit that with an 80 grit. Again in speed 2. Actually, that would probably be a great place to use that thicker sponge interface pad to actually absorb a lot of that contour and be able to hit more of that edge at one time. So let's throw that on there. And I'm just going to leave my other pad on there as well. And now you can see, again, we're actually using. But keep in mind, that will also absorb some of your sanding because this is an orbital sander. So in other words, you have little orbits. In fact, they're 3/32 orbits. So they're real small little orbits going around. And this pad is also going round and round. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The line here. And over here, let me put 2 lines. And we'll see while we're sanding, see that going round and round? But and you see it rotating. So basically that's your rotations, but the oscillations per minute are the little bitty circular patterns that it's doing as well. But you'll see, now it's rotating. If I push down, I've literally stopped that pad. That is really not what you want to do. You want to make sure that that is turning all the time. Let me turn the speed up. So this is a great tip for you when you're sanding. In a situation like this, especially when we put on that thicker interface pad, we can stop that pad because, again, it's absorbing a lot of that, those small oscillations because of the vibration. So there's more friction on this pad due to the contour and it grabbing more, and the fact that the pad is not wanting to move it because of it absorbing a lot of it. So you want less pressure on that to make sure that you're still cutting. I'll show you right here. Again, we have that hard edge. And if I stop it, we're not doing anything. We're doing no work whatsoever. You see there, we haven't done the least bit. If I lighten up on it, now we're doing work. Again, stop it, nothing. Zero work. But now let me show you. Pull off the thick pad. Much more work getting done. So these interface pads do save you, if you will, or are much more gentle on the pieces and kind of spread out that workload. However, if you're really wanting to get work done, you may want to run with just a thinner interface pad. And you see it's always circulating, so you want to make sure that you're always circulating that pad. Not a bad idea to put a mark or two on your pad so that you see it circulating, because this is random orbital, meaning the orbit is actually forced. So the little bitty 3/32 inch corkscrews that it's making, that's a forced rotation, if you will, or a forced orbit. But the rotation of this pad just happens randomly by the motor just kind of creating that force. But you can stop that spinning, but the orbit continues. So make sure that your pad is always spinning. So lighten up on the force if you have to, and make sure that that pad continues to spin. And you're going to get a lot better performance out of your sandpaper and out of your sander. Now let's take off our 80 grit and let's go to some 120. We'll leave it on 4. Very smooth. It's a very light pressure. Very light pressure to keep that pad moving. You see we're still getting work done. Our pencil marks are going away. But again, just very light pressure to make that work. Keep that pad moving. Keep that sander moving. And there we go. Great little detail sander. Not something you want to grab to, do whole tops or things like that. But for hitting small areas, really nice little unit. Very little vibration. Great features on it with the different speeds as well as the variable speed trigger. So I can really feather it really soft if I want to. And I like the fact that we get multiple interface pads as well as an adapter for dust extraction and the dust bag. So great little unit. Just as we thought, this is a great punch list type of sander, or for those small jobs, those detail jobs. I could even see in this crossing over into the automotive realm as well. in some detail or spotch up paint situations and restorations, as well as in the detail industry, as well as getting into those fine spots and maybe taking care of nibs with some 1000 grit plus on some of that finer film paper. Pricing on this is just $179, and you get a 5-year warranty with this as well. Right now, we're not seeing these as kits. You just get the 2535-20, which means you get everything here. You just don't get a battery with it like we have paired right here. Hey, hopefully we gave you some tips on sanding, and you can put marks on your pads if you want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck, or best bang for your hours spent, time spent. It'll definitely help you out. And that goes across the board with any random orbital polisher or sander. You want to make sure that that pad is always moving. That's going to give you a better output piece, as well as it's going to be more efficient as well and be better on the tool and the paper. Hey, be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and even X. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.